1500 प्रीलोडेड गानों वाला कीपैड फोन धमाकेदार साउंड के साथ कारवा मोबाइल।
हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Lord Krishna described in the previous chapter that just by engaging in unalloyed devotional service of Lord Krishna, one can surpass the influence of three modes of nature. So one may ask, what about the Vedas? So many Vedic hymns which are practiced with great labor. After many years of training, they are sung in regulated meters. What about those powerful hymns? So in this chapter, Lord Krishna explains that the Vedas are leaves of a banyan tree, which is inverted. One who understands this tree understands all the Vedas. So what is this tree? Why is it inverted? How we can understand all the Vedas by knowing the tree? Let us explore in this short but very important chapter. Chapter 15, Yoga of the Supreme Person. This session is dedicated to His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, our spiritual master and the founder and acharya of the worldwide Hare Krishna movement. Let us see verse number 1 and 2. Shri Bhagavanuvāca urdhvamulam adhashakham ashvatham praharavyayam chandamsi yasya parnani yastam veda savedavid. The blessed Lord said, there is a banyan tree which has its roots upward and its branches down, and whose leaves are the Vedic hymns. One who knows this tree is the knower of the Vedas. Adhashchordhvam prasritastasya shakha guna pravriddha vishaya pravala adhascha mulanyananushasitani karmanubandhini manushya loke. The branches of this tree extend downward and upward, nourished by the three modes of material nature. The twigs are the objects of the senses. This tree also has roots going down, and these are bound to the fruitive actions of human society. So this chapter begins with this cryptic information. Lord Krishna is talking about a tree. Urdhvamulam adhashakam ashvatham prahur avyayam. What kind of tree? Ashvatha, the banyan tree, fig tree. So banyan trees are huge. And few decades ago, there was a huge banyan tree in the eastern part of India. It was spread in many acres of land. And it was a challenge. If somebody can find out the original tree, the original trunk, then so much money will be bestowed upon him. So it was very difficult. This is the uniqueness of the banyan tree. From one tree, branches will come out, they'll become secondary roots. Then so many other trees will come up. Then in that area, from one tree, so many trees will soon manifest. And one cannot figure out which is the original tree. So what is this tree which is being talked about here? So this tree represents our entanglement in this material world. So as the banyan tree is very complex, no one can trace out from where it began, where are the original roots, which is the original tree. Similarly, it is very difficult to trace how the living entity came in this material world. From where all this started. But one must be wondering after hearing these verses, banyan tree is alright. Why inverted banyan tree? So yes, this world is very, very complex. We all understand. Many times people ask this question, why the life is so complex? So banyan tree is very apt. But why inverted? This is very, very significant. Urdhva moolam adha shakha. Mula means roots. The roots are urdhva means upwards, adha means down. And the second meaning is we are struggling in a hallucinatory existence. It's not the real thing to suffer. You can see very nice, sweet fruit on the reflection of the tree, but we shall never be able to taste that fruit or its sweetness. We can only see it. In a similar fashion, we can only see enjoyment in this world, but we cannot attain that enjoyment. Everyone is saying, oh, if I do this, I'll be happy. Just do that, I'll be settled. But the settlement never happens. That happiness is always escaping us. So then Lord Krishna further describes, Chandansi asya parnani. The leaves of this tree are the Vedic hymns. So people are very fond of Vedas. When they come to us, they tell, in your temple, can we get the Vedas? We just see Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam and some other Upanishads here. Where are the other Vedas? So here Lord Krishna is telling that this tree is tree of hallucination, upside down. And the Vedas, Vedic hymns are the leaves of this tree. That means if a person is attracted by the leaves of this tree, still one is in illusion. So one who is an atheist, the conclusion, this is mentioned in the conclusive portion of the Vedas, which is called Vedanta. One who is an atheist, who does not have faith in the Vedas, and one who is very, very strict in following the rules and regulations of the Vedas, Vedanta declares both are equally in illusion. Yes. A person who does not know the Vedas and a person who is following very, very strictly the Vedas without coming to the conclusion of the Vedas, which is surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That Lord Krishna has explained in 9th chapter. That Lord Krishna will explain now in this chapter. He will repeat again this instruction at the end of Bhagavad Gita. Sarv dharman parityajya mamekam sharanam raja. Unless one surrenders to Supreme Lord, one comes to understanding of His personality. Both the strict Brahmana who is following the Veda and an atheist are equally illusioned. But one who is following the Vedas, he is on a better platform, because when you follow these Vedic rituals, mainly the Vedas contain the Karma Kanda portion. Karma Kanda portion means you do these rituals, these sacrifices, these yagyas, homas, you'll get this result. And you get material opulences in your life. But still, material opulences entangle you in repeated birth and death. So even though such a situation is in hallucination, these Vedic hymns hold a person in this tree of illusion. They are part of the illusory tree, the Vedic hymns. But a person develops faith when he gets material results in his life by following the Vedas. And when one is not satisfied by those results, he would further read the Vedas. Why am I not satisfied? He will come to Jnana Kanda portion and ultimately Upasana Kand, and the end of Upasana Kand, the worship and surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Then one's Vedic study is successful. So that is why in the 2nd chapter also Lord Krishna told, Yavanarth udupane sarvatas samplutodake tavan sarveshu vedeshu brahmanasya vijanatah. Just like if you have a river, then you need not dig so many wells in the village. It serves all the purposes. In a similar fashion, one who knows the conclusion of Vedas, for him there is no need to go through Vedas. Traigunya Vishya Veda Nistraigunya Bhavarjuna. The Vedas only talk about 3 modes of nature. And as we have seen in the previous chapter, one has to rise above the modes. So there is no need to go through the Karmakanda portion and the most of the Vedic hymns. We have to come to Vedanta. Time is very short in Kali Yuga. We cannot wait to follow the Karmakanda portion, fulfill our desires for hundreds and thousands of years. After exhausting all our desires, we go to Jnana-kanda, again spend thousands of years analyzing what is truth. We are very short-lived. In Satyuga, people were having such long life and they would gradually progress through it, which is called Pravritti Marg. the marg of material enjoyment. By enjoying, then gradually developing detachment, finally you can make your life perfect. Now time is very, very short. So one has to take help of literatures like Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, and make one's life successful. So Chandansi Asya Parnani. So the Vedic hymns are the green leaves of this tree. And Yastam Veda Savedavit. One who knows this tree, for him all the Vedas are known, because all the Vedas ultimately they aim to cut the knot of this material attachment, cut this hallucinatory existence within this material world where one identifies with the body. So that is why there is no need to go through the Vedas if we are able to understand this tree. And what is this tree? That Lord Krishna explained here in a couple of verses. Then Lord Krishna explained the roots of this tree as it is mentioned here. The branches of this tree extend downward and upward, nourished by the three modes of material nature. So the first understanding is that what is giving the nourishment to its roots. If we have to come out of this hallucination, first of all, we have to understand what is sustaining this hallucinatory tree. As the water sustains the tree, here the three modes of nature sustain this tree of hallucination, the inverted banyan tree. That is why one has to rise above the modes. As long as we are in the three modes, the tree of material hallucination will keep getting nourishment. For that, one has to do unalloyed devotional service as mentioned in the last verse of the previous chapter. Then it is explained, the branches of this tree extend downward and upward. So the branches are compared to various planetary systems. The living entity hovers in so many planetary systems. As a person in the tree could be sitting on the top branch, on the lower branches, he can move around. In a similar fashion, we move around in various branches. Among the lower branches are the human species, animal species, etc. And on the higher branches are advanced species like the Gandharvas. Gandharvas are fairies. So if we hear something very fantastic, we tell it's a fairy tale. Fairy tale means because fairies do not exist, that is what we have learnt. And fairy tale means something which is imagination. But the Vedas describe, no, fairies are real. Those species are real. So fairies are called Gandharvas, the celestial musicians. There is a planet where living entities are very beautiful. They have very melodious voices and their features are very different. They can travel, fly from one planet to another. That is their capacity. So Gandharvas, they are higher species endowed with greater powers, mystical powers, magical features. And then there are Kinnaras, there are Kimpurushas, there are Devatas, Indra, Chandra, Varuna. And then ultimately, the main root of this inverted tree begins from Brahmaloka, Satyaloka, the abode of Lord Brahma, the topmost planet. So these species are situated on the upper portion. Lower branches, when the consciousness degrades, person falls to human species, or lower than that, animal species of life. So these are various branches. Person keeps on hopping from one branch to another. And what are the fruits of this tree? The fruits are the four Purusharthas mentioned in the Vedas: Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha, religiosity, economic development, sense gratification, and liberation. So these are, so it is very important to understand this tree. So please hear with attention. The objective of human form of life is called Purushartha. Artha means objective, Purush means of a human being. So what are the objectives? Vedas describe four kinds of objectives one aspires for. First of all, one wants to be religious, follow these Vedic hymns, rituals very nicely. Because unless one follows the Vedas nicely, one will be criminal as per the laws of nature and suffering will continue. So one will not be able to enjoy even material happiness. One will be frustrated always. So if one wants to enjoy at least material happiness, then dharma. So this is the first fruit of this inverted tree. Then by following the dharma nicely, rules and regulations nicely, there would be opulence. So that is why, because dharma was followed in this Bharatvarsha, which is also called Aryavarta, this country was so very filthy rich. That is why the Westerners were always eager to come to India. Somebody may ask, if you are telling that economic development is the result of dharma, why India is lagging behind? No, India was not lagging behind. It was called a golden bird. That is why everyone was eager to come. Are we so eager to go to slums? No, we are eager to go to places where there is opulence. So why somebody from Europe and other places, they were hankering to come? There was fight. Who will come to India? Who will have trade with India? Frenchmen, Portuguese, Englishmen, everybody was very eager to find a route to India. India was very, very rich because dharma was being followed. Now, because India was under subjugation for many centuries and all the precious gemstones, jewels and all the riches were taken away. And now dharma is also lost because the root of the dharma, the spiritual education, the gurukuls, where the children would go in a jungle, in a gurukul away from family, stay for 25 years, cultivate self-realization, that system was taken away because nobody was working for the Britishers and they wanted some people to work from them. They wanted clerks. So clerical education system was introduced. Any person who undergoes Vedic education will not take up any jobs because jobs make a person like a servant. You are bound by somebody's orders. And ya vidya sa vimuktaye, the Vedas mention vidya, knowledge is meant for liberation. You should be free. You should not be dependent upon anybody. So anybody who is educated will remain independent, will not serve anybody. So now if you want to have some clerks to sustain the government, you need to change the education system. In this way, dharma also went away, opulence went away, India became a poor country. Otherwise, if a person follows dharma nicely, the result is automatically sustainable. Now, economic development you can have, but it is not sustainable. The British Empire was there everywhere, but where is the British Empire now? It is all gone. So many empires have come and they have gone. Sustainable economic development, if you want, then dharma is required. Anybody can become rich by stealing, by bribery, by unfair means. But government will capture that person, put into jail, all those things will be lost. So for sustainable economic development, dharma, religion, following the codes given in the Vedas are important. So first of all, dharma one needs to imbibe in the life, then artha, economic development will follow automatically. And why do we want economic development? So that kama means we have lusty desires. Lusty desire means desire to enjoy the material senses. So from that economic development, money acquired, we want to enjoy our senses. That is all kama. That is the third objective of human form of life. And when we have sufficiently enjoyed the kama, lusty desires, sensual desires, we will find ourselves utterly dissatisfied. That is why the richest countries also are making suicide machines, suicide capsules, and people are in depression. They are banning, don't give them sleeping pills. They commit suicide taking more pills. So once a person gets unlimited means of enjoyment, one finds oneself more dissatisfied because a poor person is having a hope. If I become rich by economic development, I'll be happy. Those who are successful, rich, they have no hope. What do I do further? So they sink deep into intoxication and everything, and they get very much depressed. Then a person comes to fourth level. If a person is following nicely the Vedic rules and regulations, one will aspire for moksha. Yes, the Vedas were describing moksha, but I was not interested in that. Now I have exhausted this dharma, artha and kam. I have realized this material world does not make me satisfied. So then a person goes to the fourth level, which is called moksha, or liberation from this material bondage. But it is very important to note that all these fruits are the fruits of this tree, which is inverted, which is hallucinatory. So all these fruits are also part of hallucination created in this material world. So this dharma, which gives economic development, not the real dharma, is hallucination. That is why Srimad Bhagavatam, the final work of Vedvyas, the conclusion of Vedas, describes in the beginning, Dharma projahita kaitavo atra paramo nirmassaranam satam. All such dharmas which are meant for economic development are rejected immediately. Dharma is not meant for physical enjoyment. You do this, you go to heaven, you enjoy with so many women and wine and like that. Such dharma is rejected immediately. Because such kind of enjoyment will never satisfy you. It will give some temporary relief to the demands of mind and body, but we are spirit souls. So such dharma is called kaitava, cheating religion. Because ultimately dharma means to surrender to God, to develop love of God. That will satisfy spirit soul. But a person is cheated because we anyway want material enjoyment. Let him have this material enjoyment so that he develops faith in the Vedic injunctions or the religious codes. But this cheating religion is rejected in the Bhagavatam, which directly points the topmost dharma. So this dharma, which promises material results, is hallucination. And the economic development is also hallucination, being part of this inverted tree. Because nobody is satisfied by this economic development. It is only foolishness, just like the shirt is different from the body. If I think, let me have nice shirt and I do not eat, will I be satisfied? No. In a similar fashion, simply by taking care of body, I will not be satisfied. I am spirit soul, I need spiritual food, I need spiritual life. So this economic development, which just caters to the need of body, is also hallucinatory. And then sense enjoyment is anyway hallucinatory because we are not the body. It's just like the enjoyment experienced in dream. Because I am thinking I am body, I am getting affected by the pains and pleasures of this world. So the sense enjoyment, which the whole world is working very hard to go to better countries, to get into better offices, positions, is all hallucinatory. It is temporary. Once the body is gone, everything is gone. Person may go to which species of life, there is no knowledge, no preparation. And then most important, liberation, moksha, which is described in the glorious words of the Vedas, that is also hallucination. That is also kaitava dharma, that is also cheating. Because when a person wants moksha, then also person is selfish. Then also knowledge of absolute truth is not revealed. So when a person is dissatisfied by enjoying the senses, he thinks not enjoying the senses will give me satisfaction. Just like the person gets frustrated in marriage, they take divorce and they are happy, peaceful. Oh, now I'm happy. But then they again get dissatisfied, they enter into second marriage. Again they enter, they get frustration, then again divorce. Then they cannot remain single also. So then a person becomes clueless. What do I do now? That is why it is told Bhakti Moksha Laghuttakrit. Bhakti, devotional service, is actually the ultimate objective. Moksha Laghuttakrit, it makes moksha, liberation, very, very insignificant. Kaivalyam Narkayate, Tridash Push Akasha Pushpayate. This Kaivalyam, impersonal liberation, is compared to hellish situation, Narkayate, for a person who has positive knowledge of God. Because moksha means just going and merging in that effulgence, light which is coming out of body of God. So one remains floating as a particle, devoid of any sensual activities. So when there was opportunity to engage in positive talking, laughing, eating, enjoying with God and His devotees in the spiritual world, you chose to float as a particle in the Brahma Jyoti. So this is spiritual suicide, not having any spiritual activity. So Kaivalyam Narakayate, it is compared like hell to a person who has positive knowledge of spiritual life. So this tree is inverted. It means it is a reflection of original tree. Original life definitely exists. Original opulence definitely exists. Original enjoyment definitely it is there. Here sense enjoyment is hallucinatory. In dream enjoyment is hallucination. But enjoyment is not hallucination. So enjoyment of senses should be done on spiritual platform in the spiritual world. So this is another very important import of this analogy of inverted tree. The reflection of the tree can only be perceived when there is a real tree. Otherwise, there is no meaning of inverted tree reflection. So that is what Lord Krishna will tell one has to search out that original tree and find the Supreme Person there who is the source of that tree. So one who has positive knowledge of this tree, one who has positive knowledge of life without death, without old age, without diseases, without fatigue, without any of the anomalies, any trouble, physical or mental, of this material world, why would one want to stop such activities and float as a particle only when one does not have knowledge that I am part and parcel of Krishna, just like the leaf is part and parcel of tree. Leaf cannot be green independent of tree, severed from a tree. In a similar fashion, one who knows this science. What is the science? The soul is always linked with the Supreme Soul. Yatha taror mool nishechanena. As one waters the root of the tree, the leaf automatically gets nourishment. So if we plan and work just for the satisfaction of Supreme Person, God, I automatically get that happiness which I am hankering for. When the science of soul, constitution of soul is not known, then a person desires enjoyment and liberation, keeps on hopping between these two situations. So thus moksha or liberation is also hallucination, and that we will see Lord Krishna is coming to it. One has to go beyond moksha, come to the level of bhakti, love of God, positive life in Vaikuntha, the spiritual world. So primary root is from Brahmaloka, the planet of Lord Brahma, of this material existence. Then secondary roots are on this earthly planet. This is called Karma Yoni. In this human form of life, we do karmas, good or bad. If we do good karmas, then we go to better planets. Just like if we have money, then we can go travel abroad as a tourist, and once the money is spent, we have to come back. We cannot stay. As long as money is there, you can go outside, enjoy. In a similar fashion, the Vedas describe punya, pious activities. If we perform that, we can go to higher branches where you have lot of power, control over the universal affairs, mystic potencies, lot of enjoyment, less miseries, and continue as long as you have punya in your account. Once that is exhausted, shine punye martya lokam vishanti, you come to this mrityu loka. And if you have bad karma, then you go to suffer in the lower planets, in the hell. So you go sometimes up, just like if you have money, then you go to good places to enjoy the money. And if you have bad money, then you go to jail, you suffer, and then you come out again. In this way, living entity keeps on traveling, sometimes up and sometimes down, like a Ferris wheel. He keeps on going up and down in this material world. So these are the secondary roots. Once a person comes to this earthly planet's human form of life, then one can again have punya and pap. So this is secondary root, because then the tree of this hallucination further expands. Then one will go to some other branch, then some different branch. In this way, the material existence keeps on expanding. So primary root is Brahmaloka, secondary root is this earthly existence. Then the twigs are compared to the senses, and the leaves also are compared to sense objects. Sometimes the leaves are compared, as we have seen, to Vedic hymns. Here the leaves are compared to sense objects, because Lord Krishna is quoting here from the Vedas. That is why Lord Krishna is told, Prahuhu. If you read the first verse, Urdhvamulam adashakha ashvatham prahuhu, it is said. So Lord Krishna is also quoting authorities. So because this is not a real tree but an analogy to explain our situation in this world, so the comparisons may differ. So thus, sometimes the Vedic hymns are told as trees, sometimes the sense objects are told as leaves. So both understandings are correct. And then the attraction towards pious and impious activities, they are also subsidiary roots. If anybody wants to do pious activities, then one creates karma, one gets rooted, and material existence further expands. Or impious activity, one wants to break the laws of nature, again he creates bad karma, again he creates future bodies, again the material entanglement increases. So they become secondary roots. So pious activity, impious activity, and the hatred and desire in this material world, they form the secondary roots also. If we hate anything, we will work hard to avoid that experience. And as we work here for selfish interest, we are creating more karma. And then material entanglement increases, more bodies we create. And if we are attached to certain things to get those things, we again engage in work, and that work produces more bodies and creates future destiny. So again, we become rooted in this material world. It further expands the tree of material existence. So in this way, attachment and aversion, they form the secondary roots. Other roots are attachment to pious and impious activities. So that is why if we understand the tree of this material world, then the purpose of Vedas is served. There is no need to read the Vedas. So what is this tree? We understood it is nourished by the three modes of nature. So one has to rise above the three modes, then there is no illusion. Above the three modes, we rise by engagement in devotional service. And which are the roots which are expanding our material illusion? Attachment and hatred. So one should remain indifferent in this material world. One should neither become very happy by so-called happiness, should not become very much distressed by so-called distress. Impious and pious activity both ultimately lead to misery, because birth, death, old age, disease, they come with every body that we get here to reap the results of pious and impious activities. So one should remain as a neutral in a state of equanimity in this material world. Become free from the three modes of nature. Not get attracted by the Vedic hymns which promise material enjoyment. Don't eat the fruits of dharma, arth, kam and moksha. They are also hallucinatory. That is why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explained the confidential objective of human form of life. Prema Pumartho Mahan or Prem Purushartho Mahan. The ultimate, the greatest objective of human form of life is Prema, love of God, beyond moksha. That actually satisfies us. And the very important understanding is on what the tree is getting reflected. Without water also, there cannot be existence of this tree. The inverted tree cannot exist without the real tree, that is the spiritual world. And the inverted tree also cannot exist without water. So what is water in this case of the tree of material hallucination? That water is desire, material desires. If we have any desire not aimed at satisfying God, but aimed at satisfying our own mind and body, these are called material desires. So the tree is reflected on the water of material desire. If we finish our material desires, the tree will vanish. We will no longer remain in material entanglement, we will be free. These material desires are the basis of entire material existence. So obviously, if a person is hungry, one will chase the fruit, the form of the fruit which is getting reflected in water, not knowing that that is hallucinatory. Just like the animals, if they are thirsty, they will run behind the water in mirage, not knowing that water is hallucinatory. But if a person or animal is drinking real water, they will not run behind mirage. So if we do not have spiritual desires, we do not taste spiritual happiness in our life, we will have material desires. So we should cultivate spiritual life, we will have spiritual happiness, then we will be freed from material desires. And when material desires are not there, we come out of this tree of illusion. So if we have understood this tree, we are aware of the secondary roots, subsidiary roots, we know what is this water, dangerous water of material desire, then all the Vedic purposes are served. We need not undergo huge Vedic study. That is the verdict of Lord Krishna. Next, Lord Krishna explains, Na rupam asyeha tathopalabhyate nanto na chadir na cha sampratishtha ashvatthamenam suvirudhamulam asanga shastrena dridhena chitva tataf padam tat parimargitavyam yasmin gatana nivartanti bhuyah tam eva chadyam purusham prapadye yatah pravritti prasrita purani. The real form of this tree cannot be perceived in this world. No one can understand where it ends, where it begins, or where its foundation is. But with determination, one must cut down this tree with the weapon of detachment. So doing, one must seek that place from which, having once gone, one never returns, and there surrender to that Supreme Personality of Godhead from whom everything has begun and in whom everything is abiding since time immemorial. Na rupam asyeha tathopalabhyate. The real form of the tree cannot be perceived in this world. No one knows from where it began. But one must cut down with the weapon of detachment. We need not understand when did it start, how many lifetimes ago it started, what all transpired in between. It is not required to know. Just like we don't trace the history of disease. Now we are diseased, we need to find out the remedy. What is the solution? So Lord Krishna is telling, one should try to cut down this tree. We cut the tree with an axe, with a weapon. So what is the weapon from which this tree of illusion can be cut down? Krishna is mentioning here, Asanga Shastrena Dridena Chitva. Asanga means weapon of detachment. One should be completely detached from this world. Our attachment to this world, temporary situation, creates permanent misery for us. Eternal life after life, we keep on suffering from miseries. So one should cut down with the weapon of detachment. An important word which is used here is dridhena, with determination. One must cut down. Because it is not easy. This tree is very strong, very thick trunk. We know banyan tree. So a lot of determination is required to cut down this tree. And then it is told, Tatah padam tat parimargitavyam yasmin gato na nivartanti bhuyaha. Having cut down this tree, one should not become satisfied. So thus Lord Krishna is telling, there is something more beyond liberation. Once your hallucinatory material condition is removed, repeated birth and death, you are freed from it. Still something is to be done more. And what is that? Tatah padam tad parimargitavyam. One should search out. What should one search out? Yasmin gato na nivartanti bhuyaha. One should not again come back. So Krishna is telling, you can come back to this tree will get revived if you don't find a place from which nobody returns. So thus from moksha a person can fall down. This is also confirmed in the 11th canto of Bhagavatam. Aruya krichena param padam patanti adho anadrit yushmat anghrayah. With great austerities one can come to the platform of liberation, but patanti adha, one falls down. Anadrit yushmat anghrayah, one has not taken shelter of lotus feet of Krishna. If one does not have positive spiritual happiness, one will fall down again to illusory activities. So once your material attachment is finished, you should not rest. But parimargitavyam, you should search out the place from where nivartanti bhuyaha, na nivartanti, you don't come back again. And in that place, you should do one important thing. What is that? Tam eva chadyam purusham prapadye. Purush means you will find a person there. There is a real tree. You find on that real existence a person, Purusham. And who is that Purush? Adyam, original Purush. So it is very difficult, Krishna is telling, to find the origin of this tree, but still one should try to find out Purusham Adyam. I have come from my father has come from his father. He came from his father, great-grandfather. In this way, if we trace, we will come to Lord Brahma, the first person of this universe. And then this universe's reflection will go to spiritual world. And there if we keep on tracing, Lord Brahma has come from Garbhodakshai Vishnu. He has come from Mahavishnu. In this way we keep on tracing, we ultimately come to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna. Adyam Purusham, the original person. So the origin of everything is not light or energy, but that light also has its origin in a person. That is what Lord Krishna told in the last verse of the previous chapter. Brahmano hi pratishtaham, that Brahma Jyoti is coming from me. I am the basis of that spiritual effulgence. So spiritual energy, everything is happening in this world because of energy, but that energy is based on energetic. And he is Purush, he is a person. So one should surrender. Prapadya means surrender. Purusham prapadye, one should surrender to that supreme person. Yatha pravitti prasrita purani, and he is the source of everything that is existing, the real tree or the hallucinatory thing. I'll repeat. So he is the source of everything that is existing. the real tree or the hallucinatory one. Just like a small child, if it tries to exert its independence, it will lose its life. Similarly, we are completely in ignorance in this world unless we surrender, just like a child surrendered to the parents, follows whatever the parents are telling, will be very safe. In a similar fashion, if we surrender completely to Krishna, follow the rules and regulations, the directions given in the Vedas, then we are very, very safe. Whatever desires we have of material enjoyment, that will also be satisfied, and at the end we will go to the real tree. You want to satisfy yourself in this material world? Then the Vedas give direction, okay, follow this and satisfy yourself. And if you follow the Vedic directions, we will satisfy, and then at the end we will return to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So surrenderance is required to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this is the conclusion. So just see, it is so very much clear. Where is impersonalism merging here and there? Clearly Krishna is telling, once this material entanglement is over, tata padam, then from that platform, you should find out a place from where there is no return. Means simply from liberation, there is return to this material world. But from the spiritual planets, there is no return. There you'll find a person. Why am I speaking of planet? Lord Krishna has not mentioned planet here. That he will tell further in the shlokas. So we can wait and we can discuss there. So on the spiritual planet Vaikuntha Lokas, when you go there, you'll find a person who is the original person. Surrender unto that Supreme Person. From there, the spiritual life begins. निर्माण मोहा जित संग दोषा अध्यात्म नित्या विनिवृत्त कामाः द्वन्द्वैर्विमुक्ता सुख दुःख संज्ञैर् गच्छन्त्यमूढाः पदमव्ययम् तत्. One who is free from illusion, false prestige and false association, who understands the eternal, who is done with material lust and is freed from the duality of happiness and distress, and who knows how to surrender unto the Supreme Person, attains to that eternal kingdom. So here the process of surrender is being described. Nirman moha jit sanga dosha. So first of all, one should be nirman. One should be free, devoid of any desire to have personal honor in this world. Anybody who desires to be honored in this world cannot surrender to the Supreme Person, which is the ultimate objective stated here in the previous verse. Because if you want honor in this world, as we discussed, it is temporary. We are traveling in a flight which is bound to crash. We see everybody is dying. I will also die. Everything will be left behind. Still, I work very hard to get honored without working hard for eternal life. This is craziness. So if you want honor, then we have to work hard. And if you work hard, there is no time and sense to understand the reality and attain eternality. So that is why nirmana, person should become very, very humble. One should not desire any honor in this world. Nirmana moha, one should be free from illusion that I am the body, and this will be freed from the desire to have honored. Jit sanga dosha, one should be free from false associations. When I am in moha, I am in illusion that I am the body, then I create various designations. Now this body belongs to a certain tract of land. That land has been given a name. People may call it America, Sri Lanka, India, Australia, France. These are designations given by us. And then if I think I am Frenchman, I am Indian, I am American, I am British, these are also false designations because you thought you are the body. You picked up the designation given to the land, and then further designations develop of family, of castes, of other affiliations. So one should be free from all such temporary affiliations. Understand, I do not belong to this material world at all. I am pure spirit soul. Aham Brahmasmi. Jita Sanga Dosha, one should be freed from such false associations. I do not belong to any place, any people, any family. These are temporary designations I have created. This is called Jita Sanga Dosha. Then, Adhyatma Nitya Vinivritta Kama, when one is freed from all the designations, understand I am a traveler, traveling in this body. I will leave this body and move on to different vehicle. Then one can understand the importance of Adhyatma Nitya, the importance of spiritual life, self-realization. And then when one advances on this path, Vinivritta Kama, one becomes freed from the material desires. And then Dvandvair Vimukta Sukha Dukkha Sangyair, one is freed from the dualities of happiness and distress. One should aspire, one should work hard to become free from happiness and distress which are hallucinatory in this world. We have discussed this many times. We can discuss again. It is very important to know that we want to have happiness, we want to avoid distress, but one should remain indifferent to both happiness and distress. This world is a world of duality. Now you are very happy, oh, there is birth. But somebody somewhere is crying because one death has happened. The same soul has transferred itself to a body. So somebody is crying and rejoicing at the same time. The body which the soul has left, the people living in false designation, oh, we belong to this person, he was our family member, they are crying, oh, our family member is gone. And somebody under similarly false designations, oh, this is my family, oh, birth has happened in my family, they are rejoicing. So happiness and distress, it is the same thing in material world. Somebody is happy, somebody is distressed for the same phenomena. Transmigration of soul creates distress, creates happiness. Both are hallucinatory. And then now we are enjoying because of birth, death will happen to the same person and then we'll be in distress. If we became happy in birth of some person, we'll become morose and distressed in the death of that person. If we are not happy on somebody's birth, we'll be undisturbed in the death of that person also. So thus happiness and distress are two sides of the same coin. So thus one should be very fearful, and the exact word which is used in the Vedas is detestful of this material happiness. Now the objective is to have material happiness of body and mind, but the sane and sober person should be detestful. Why detestful? Because the so-called happiness only is the cause of my repeated birth and death, entanglement and misery. This happiness only is misery. Two sides of the same coin. If the presence of certain comforts in my life make me happy, then the absence of those comforts will give me distress. And absence is bound to happen because time does not let anything stay here permanently. Time creates temporary situations. If presence of some people is making me happy, those people will go away. Separation is bound to happen. Because this world is temporary, then I'll come under distress. The more I am happy in the presence of person, the more I'll be heartbroken in the absence of those people. The more the quality of few people is making me happy, those qualities also will change, will give me distress. If I cannot live without air-conditioned room, then absence of that will make me very uncomfortable. So that is why tapasya was executed in the Vedic culture. Live with bare minimum comforts of life. Then you are not affected by the waves of so-called happiness and distress, which are two sides of the same coin. So it is so important. So that happiness is actually our distress. If we are enjoying that, just wait. Time will take that situation, thing, person away, and then you will be in distress. So long it is there, you will be in anxiety to maintain it. You will be fearful that it may not go away. In this, a person is always perplexed, in anxiety to maintain, in fear of losing it. And then finally there is death. This is called pavarga, material life. So one should be free. Dvandvair vimukta sukha dukkha sangyaya. One should be free from this dualities which are given the names of happiness and distress. Actually they are the same thing. Happiness only is distress in this material world. Gachanti amuda padam avyayam tat. Such a person who is amuda, unbewildered, can actually attain that stage of the spiritual world and surrender unto that supreme person. So this is the process of surrender. Na tad bhasayate suryo na shashanko na pavakaha yad gatva na nivartante tadhama paramam mama. That abode of mine is not illumined by the sun or moon, nor by electricity. One who reaches it never returns to this material world. So here Lord Krishna is explaining the situation of the spiritual world. Na tad bhasayate suryo. The illumination in this material world happens either by Surya, the sun, the moon, pavakaha, fire or electricity. But Krishna is telling all these things are not required to illuminate my abode. Tad dhama. Dhama means abode or place of residence or planet of residence. Tad dhama paramam mama. My abode is supreme. Why Krishna is mentioning here paramam dhama? Because actually everything belongs to Krishna. Now our this dhama, earth where we are living, this earth is also actually property of Krishna. But one does not need to live in all the property that a person owns. One can have many flats, apartments, villas and bungalows. But a person is willing to live in his best bungalow, best house. In a similar fashion, all the dhamas, all the planets belong to Krishna. But Dhama Paramam, the topmost planet, the topmost situation, that Lord Krishna is explaining here. Tad Dhama Paramamama, the best abode of mine where I live, that is not illumined by sun, moon, fire or electricity. Then is it dark over there? No, it cannot be dark. Because Lord Krishna has explained previously that all the effulgence of the sun and moon is coming from me. So if Krishna is the source of everything which is effulgent, how the place where Krishna is living can be dark? So there everything is of the same nature as that of Krishna, because Krishna is very effulgent. Prabha asmi shashi suryayo, I am the effulgence of the sun and moon, Krishna tells. So everything in the material world is of the same spiritual nature. In this material world there is duality. Matter and spirit are mixed together, as we understood in the description of Purusha and Prakriti in previous chapters. But in spiritual world, it is only spirit soul, and the spirit is having same nature as that of the body of Krishna, which is completely spiritual. It is Satchidananda and it is effulgent. So just like the sun is effulgent here, everything in the spiritual world is effulgent. There is no need of external light source like sun, moon, fire or electricity. Yad gatva na nivartante. Once a person goes there, he does not come back. The description of this material world was explained previously. Abrahma bhuvanal lokan punaravartino Arjuna. Even if you go to topmost planet Brahma Loka, where there is no gross body, person lives only in subtle body of mind, intelligence and false ego, still a person has to come back again, come down again. But here it is being mentioned, na nivartante. If you reach the spiritual abode where Krishna personally lives, the topmost planet, then you do not have to come back. Tad dhama paramamama. So in the purport it is explained that one should get captivated by this information. There's a person opened new bakery next to our apartment. So on the first day for certain time, he announced it is free. Anybody who can come, he will get free whatever he cooks there, he bakes there. And people got captivated by this information. I'll get for free if I go there. And so many people assembled there. Similarly, one should know there is a place from which one does not have to come back to take more material body. One will have permanent life of never-ending enjoyment. One should get captivated. Oh, I'll be immortal. There is no question of death. There is no question of old age and disease. Yes, this is the most confidential information. That is why Krishna has been telling, now I am going to tell you the most confidential secret information. Because our science has reached the planet next to us. We are searching, sending some probes and robots. But this description is of a place beyond the boundaries of the universe. And there, if we travel and reach, there is no coming back. We have a permanent life. So one should get captivated by this information. And human life is meant to transfer ourselves to that abode. And that happens by surrendering to the Supreme Person. Mamaivansho jivaloke jivabhutas sanatanaha manashashthani prakritisthani karshati. The living entities in this conditioned world are my eternal, fragmental parts. Due to conditioned life, they are struggling very hard with the six senses, which include the mind. Here Krishna explains what is the position of living entity. We think we are enjoying here, but Krishna tells no. The living entities are simply struggling here. Karshati, struggling how? With six senses. Mana shashthendriyani. Six senses are explained here. We all know five senses plus mind is considered the sixth sense. With these six senses, we are struggling very hard in this material world to become happy. Karshati. And the living entity is my Ansha eternally. That is explained here. If there is any fragment of impersonalism left in our mind, we should read this chapter very carefully. So very beautiful it is being mentioned here. Mama evansho jivaloke. Krishna is not telling you are me. Krishna is telling you are my Ansha, you are my fragment. Mameva Ansha. So we can tell, oh yes, now we are fragment, but on liberation we will merge and become one with God. We will become God, as some philosophers say. But that is not approved here by Lord Krishna. He is telling here, Mam eva Ansha. Certainly you are my Ansha, my fragment. Sanatanaha. Sanatan means eternally. Always this is our situation. You have always been my fragmental part. Now this fragment is not like material fragment. Material fragment can get detached and it can get attached. It is being mentioned here, Nayanam chindanti shastrani, Nayanam dahati pavakaha. The soul cannot be cut into pieces. The soul is eternal. You cannot cut, remove and then join again. Soul is eternal. The situation of the soul is eternal. So thus eternally Krishna is mentioning, Sanatana, you are my fragmental part. I am infinite, you are infinitesimal. And you are struggling here because you do not know this knowledge that you are my fragmental part. So this is again very important verse. As a leaf is part and parcel of tree. Tree is huge, leaf is small. But the way leaf can derive satisfaction is not by asking for independent supply of water, but only if the water is supplied to the root, leaf is nourished automatically. So only if we plan the service of God, how to give pleasure to God, all pleasure comes in our life, material and spiritual. There will be no lack of material comforts and we'll have spiritual pleasure, permanent life also. Because this is the science. We are eternal fragments of the Supreme Person. Shariram yad avapnoti yacchapi utkramatishvaraha grahitvaetani sanyati vayurgandhani vashayat. The living entity in the material world carries his different conceptions of life from one body to another as the air carries aromas. Shrotram chakshu sparshanam cha rasanam ghranameva cha adhishthaya manaschayam vishayanupasevate. The living entity, thus taking another gross body, obtains a certain type of ear, tongue and nose and sense of touch, which are grouped about the mind. He thus enjoys a particular sense. I'll repeat. The living entity, thus taking another gross body, obtains a certain type of ear, tongue and nose and sense of touch, which are grouped about the mind. He thus enjoys a particular set of sense objects. Air is pure, but air passes over a flower It picks up the fragrance of the flower. It passes over stool, picks up the foul smell of the stool. In a similar fashion, we pick up conceptions of life as per our association. So this association is very important. If a person is always having an atheistic association, he is bound to have an atheistic conception of life. If a person is born in materialistic association, money is everything, will make me happy, he is bound to have this belief. In Vedic culture, people would tell material riches, Brahmanas will tell it is Maya. So they will keep it only for the maintenance. It creates hallucination in our life. Unless somebody is more advanced than a Brahmana, Vaishnava, one cannot properly accept money to use it in the service of God. So for a person who does not have positive knowledge of God, who is only at the Brahmana level, that I am not the body, I am spirit soul, for him, he should just live a life of simple maintenance, should keep away from money and other things. It creates distress in our life. So thus Brahmanas were having concept, money is the source of misery. Materialist has concept, money is the source of happiness. Who is correct? In a similar fashion, people have various concepts. All the concepts simply depend upon our association, the people we are associated with. So as the soul passes in different associations, we create certain concepts in our life. Some people think material enjoyment is happiness. Some people think liberation is happiness. Some people think service of Supreme Lord Personality is happiness. Now, among all these conceptions, which is a conception based on truth? It is to be found out using this knowledge of the Vedas, which are coming from the Supreme Person, approved by the seers of truth. But as we develop various conceptions, we develop various concepts of happiness and distress. We develop various desires to enjoy the world in a certain way, and the nature arranges suitable bodies to facilitate our enjoyment. As we discussed, the nature is designed just to facilitate our enjoyment. But we need to have the right desires of only having spiritual enjoyment. Then we reach to spiritual abode. Utkramantam sthitam vapi bhunjanam va gunanvitam vimudhananu pashyanti jnana chakshushaha. The foolish cannot understand how a living entity can quit his body, nor can they understand what sort of body he enjoys under the spell of the modes of nature. But one whose eyes are trained in knowledge can see all this. So the passage of soul, transmigration, acceptance of various bodies, elevation or degradation cannot be seen by these eyes, because these eyes can just see matter. So how do we understand the phenomena on spiritual plane? By Gyan Chakshusha. As we have discussed, we don't see what is happening on the space station. Gyan Chakshusha, those people who have knowledge, they tell us. We don't see what is happening, whether global warming is happening, climate change is happening, what is happening. Understand Gyan Chakshusha. We don't see how the soap is killing the bacteria in our hand. Gyan Chakshusha. The wise men have told bacteria is getting killed by using soap. So we have faith and we follow and we see we are getting result. So it must be true. In a similar fashion, by Gyan Chakshusha, these eyes, unless spiritualized by advanced devotional service, cannot perceive and see spirit. In advanced stages it is possible. So otherwise it should be seen from Gyan Chakshusha, by the eyes of knowledge, by the Vedic injunctions, by the directions of people who have knowledge of truth. Yatanto yoginaschainam pasyantyatmanyavasthitam yatanto api akritatmano nainam pasyantyachetasaha. The endeavoring transcendentalist, who is situated in self-realization, can see all this clearly, but those who are not situated in self-realization cannot see what is taking place, although they may try to. So thus, unless a person takes to yogic practices for self-realization, formalities will not work. In formality, I am worshipping the deity or the form of the Lord in the temple. In formality, I am doing some yoga practices for some mental peace, without any desire to understand absolute truth. or for reducing belly fat, then such people cannot understand this phenomena, how it is happening, even though they may try to. So only when a person is situated in self-realization, one can see all these things clearly. Yadaditya tejo jagad bhasayate khilam yachandramasi yacchagnau tattejo vidhi mamakam. The splendor of the sun, which dissipates the darkness of this whole world, comes from me, and the splendor of the moon and the splendor of fire are also from me. So this is the beginning of Krishna consciousness. We cannot see God Krishna directly, but we can think of him in this manner. Whenever we see any light here, we understand it is coming from Krishna. We see sun, we see moon, we should immediately think of Krishna. Krishna has told, this splendor of sun and moon is from me. In this manner, simply by this understanding, we make tremendous advancement in our spiritual life. So somehow or other, we have to absorb ourselves in the thought of Krishna's form. That is called Krishna consciousness, the topmost perfection of yogic realization, as explained in the 6th chapter. Yoginam api sarvesham madgaten antaratmana. One who is always meditating on the form of Krishna within his heart in all one's activities throughout the day, he is the greatest topmost yogi. So even though we cannot see Krishna directly, we can understand. As by seeing the creation or by seeing the painting, one immediately thinks of painter. By seeing this wonderful creation, splendorous sun, moon, one can immediately think of Krishna. In this way, our thought of Krishna begins and we make tremendous advancement. Gama vishya cha bhutani dharayamyaham ojasa pushnami chaushadhi sarva somo bhutva rasatmakaha. I enter into each planet, and by my energy they stay in orbit. I become the moon and thereby supply the juice of life to all vegetables. So it is because Krishna has entered not just within our hearts in these bodies, Krishna has entered in the planets also. That is why the planets are able to maintain their orbits. And Krishna is the source of moonlight, which gives the taste in vegetables. So this is also subject matter of scientific research, material research, that the taste in vegetables is because of the moonlight Krishna is mentioning here. Aham vaishvanaro bhutva praninam dehamashritah pranapana samayuktaha pachamyannam chaturvidham. I am the fire of digestion in every living body, and I am the air of life, outgoing and incoming, by which I digest the 4 kinds of foodstuff. So Krishna is so much taking care of us. We are so completely dependent on Krishna. The inward breath and the outgoing breath, both are Krishna. There is fire, heat in the stomach, which digests the foodstuff. Without that fire, hunger, we cannot taste foodstuffs. Even if we eat, we cannot digest. We will not be able to maintain the bodies. So first of all, Krishna creates the vegetables, give tastes in the vegetables by the moonlight. And then Krishna creates proper digestive fire so that we can taste while eating the vegetables and we can digest them and the body gets nourished. Inhaling breath, exhaling breath. So thus we are completely dependent upon Krishna in all activities of ours. In this way, we can improve our Krishna consciousness. When I am eating something, or this taste is because of the moonlight which is coming from Krishna, I am able to feel hunger, I am able to digest because of Krishna present as Vaishvanara, fire in the belly. So in this way, in every aspect, always we are seeing chapter after chapter, Krishna is telling us how we can think of him directly or indirectly. Sarvasya chaham hridi sannivishto matta smritir jnanam apohanam cha vedaishcha sarvairahameva vedyo vedanta krit vedavideva chaham. I am seated in everyone's heart, and from me come remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. By all the Vedas am I to be known. Indeed, I am the compiler of the Vedanta, and I am the knower of the Vedas. Very important verse again. Krishna is telling Sarvasya Chaham Hridi Sannivishto. Hridi means in the heart. Of all the living entities, I am seated in their hearts. And what do I do in the heart? Mata smritir jnanam apohanam cha. I give remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. So we have various desires, and to fulfill those desires, Krishna has made laws of nature. Now, how do we act as per those laws? Krishna gives inspiration from the heart. Krishna gives the knowledge, and Krishna gives the forgetfulness also. So if we have certain desires, Krishna will tell us, inspire from the heart, how to do that activity rightly. He'll make us meet the right persons. He'll take us through those literatures to engage in those activities and thus fulfill the desires of enjoyment that we have. And if it is required that we should take next life for that enjoyment, then in the next life, Krishna will give us remembrance that in previous life you had a desire. So I inspired to do right kind of work, and now I have given you this body. So Krishna gives knowledge. Now you act in this way, and then you will be able to satisfy your desire. So Krishna gives the knowledge, and Krishna gives the remembrance. And then Krishna also gives forgetfulness. We become forgetful of previous life. Because if I remember that I am not the body, I am spirit soul, and I keep on changing bodies life after life, then I cannot enjoy these hallucinatory desires. So because I have a desire to enjoy on material platform, I need to be kept in hallucination that you are the body. So Krishna makes us forgetful of the past life. But those who are advanced spiritualists like Bharat Maharaj, they were able to remember their previous lives because they did not want to forget. They wanted to attain the permanent eternal kingdom of God. So Krishna gave them remembrance of previous life and previous 2 lives, and thus Bharat Maharaj attained perfection. So if we want to get knowledge of previous lives, want to have self-realization, and we are willing to pay the price, we are willing to sacrifice anything for it, Krishna will give us remembrance. All our births will be remembered and self-realization will happen. And if we want to enjoy material life, we have material desires, then immediately there is reflection of this inverted banyan tree. We get entangled in its complexities. So thus, knowledge, forgetfulness, and remembrance, everything is coming from Krishna. We want to become atheist, Krishna will give best of the logics from the heart. How to become atheist. So thus, we have to be conscious what we should desire, what will make me happy and satisfied. And thus, to help us cultivate the right desires, Krishna is telling, Vedantakrit Ved Videva Chaham, I create Vedanta. The Vedas also are cheating you to material desires. But I have composed Vedanta, Vedantakrit Ved Vid Eva Chaham. So Maharshi Ved Vyas has composed the Vedanta to tell us which are the right desires. Athato Brahma Jigyasa. Therefore now it is the time to inquire about absolute truth. This should be the desire. I should be very, very inquisitive to know what is truth of life, what is fact. So Maharshi Ved Vyas is incarnation of Krishna. Krishna has declared here, I have created the Vedas, Vedantakrit Ved Vid, and I am the perfect knower of the Vedas. And from all the Vedas, I am to be known. So this people miss out. So thus, if we have to find a spiritual master, we have to find a person who is a devotee of Krishna, who has perfect knowledge of Krishna, because very clearly Krishna has mentioned here what is the objective of the Vedas. Vedaischa sarvair aham eva vedyo. From all the Vedas, ultimate objective is to know Krishna. So one who has known Krishna, the purposes, all the purposes of reading the Vedas, it is fulfilled. If a person knows Krishna. So thus one should go to the literature like Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, which give positive knowledge of the real world and of personality of Godhead. And if we get this knowledge, there is no need to go through gradual process of cultivating Vedic knowledge. So thus it is very simple. Thus the Vedas mention Shat karma nipuno vipra, mantra tantra visharada. One can be very expert in 6 duties which a Brahmana is supposed to execute. Mantra tantra visharada, he is very expert in mantras and tantras. But avaishnava gurur nasyat. If one is avaishnava, not a devotee of Lord Vishnu, Krishna, he cannot become guru. He can remain Brahmana, but he cannot be called guru. Guru should be Vaishnava, one who is a lover of God, one who has positive knowledge of God. He only has right to give Vedic knowledge to others, because the knowledge of Krishna is the ultimate objective of all. Now let us see few more very, very interesting shlokas which will even give much more clarity that how there is no concept of the spirit soul being one with God or becoming God after liberation. So in this verse, Krishna explains, Dvavimau purushau loke Sharashchakshara evacha Sharas sarvani bhutani Kutasthokshara uchyate. There are 2 classes of beings, the fallible and the infallible. In the material world, every entity is fallible, and in the spiritual world, every entity is called infallible. Dvav imau purushau loke. There are 2 kinds of living entities, Kshara and Akshara, those who fall down and those who do not fall down. We keep on falling down. And those who are in the spiritual world, they don't fall down, they don't come again for material suffering. Kutastha. Kutastha means who are fixed in oneness. Oneness means not that they have become merged with God, one in agreement, one in purpose, one in identification. Now we think we are body. Those who think they are anshas of Krishna, they are pure spirit souls like Krishna is spirit, that is called oneness. There is agreement, service of Krishna. Just like in the time of war, the entire country becomes one. All the citizens become one. Does it mean they have mixed to become one person? No. All the citizens have become one, means one in agreement. Yes, we have to stand together in the time of crisis. So we have to understand properly the use of language in parampara. So we think citizens have become one means they have become one man, all the citizens of the country. No, that is wrong understanding. So fixed in oneness, kutastha means fixed in constitutional position, agreement that yes, we shall work only for serving Krishna. Everybody agrees. I do not want my independent enjoyment. They don't fall down to this material world for independent enjoyment. Now, beside both the living entities, Kshara and Akshara, there is one more living entity who is Uttamah Purusha, topmost personality. What is his situation? That is explained here. Uttamah Purushastvanyah Paramatmeti Udahritaha Yo Lokatrayam Avishya Bibharti Avyaya Ishvaraha. Besides these 2, there is the greatest living personality, the Lord Himself, who has entered into these worlds and is maintaining them. So here we can see Uttama Purushaha tu Anyaha. Besides the liberated personalities and conditioned personality, there is Uttam Purush, the topmost personality. And what is the position, the special feature of this personality? It is being mentioned. His name is Paramatma, and Lokatrayam Avishya. He has entered into all these worlds, and Bibharti, for the maintenance of the worlds. I, by entering within this body, am able to control the activities of this body. I cannot claim that I have entered everywhere. So this Uttam Purush has entered all the 3 worlds, and he is maintaining by entrance in the worlds. So thus it is very, very clear. By being liberated, we don't become God. God always remains God. He is called Paramatma. We always remain Atma. We are Kshara Atma or Akshar Atma. We are liberated or we are conditioned. But beyond both the conditioned and liberated, there is Paramatma, the Lord Himself, who enters the worlds and who maintains the worlds. So why people tell that we are God? On liberation, we will become God. We have to merge. It is not supported by Vedas or Bhagavad Gita at all. Yasmaksharam atitoham aksharaadapi chottamaha atosmi loke vede cha prathitah purushottamaha. Because I am transcendental, beyond both the fallible and the infallible, and because I am the greatest, I am celebrated both in the world and in the Vedas as that Supreme Person. So somewhere Lord Krishna is quoting the Vedic authorities, that Supreme Person, that person you should surrender, Tam Purusham Prapadde, as if that person is different from Krishna. No, he is not different. Because Krishna is quoting authorities, Prahu, it is said that you do this and surrender unto Supreme Person. Just like any advocate, he gives quotations, he gives references, Indian Penal Code, section this is the law. So thus the Vedas are law books and Krishna is quoting the Vedas. Thus he talks sometimes in third person, surrender to third person, and then he gives live instructions. So surrender to me, I am that Supreme Person. So here Lord Krishna is telling that direct instruction. Yasmat ksharam atito aham, because I am transcendental beyond both the kshara and akshara. So I am celebrated in both the worlds and in the Vedas as that Supreme Person. So Vedas Purushottama, many times the Vedas will glorify Purushottama. And who is that Purushottama? Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. He is Govinda. He is Krishna. Krishna is telling Aham, I am celebrated in this world and in the Vedas, both the places, as the Supreme Person. So Krishna has made it very clear. I am God. I am the Supreme Person beyond both conditioned and liberated souls. Yo mamevam asammudho janati purushottamam sa sarvavid bhajati mam sarva bhavena bharata. Whoever knows me as a Supreme Personality of Godhead without doubting is to be understood as the knower of everything, and he therefore engages himself in full devotional service, O son of Bharat. Asammudha, without any doubt. Yo mam evam, one who understands me as the Supreme Person, as that person, Uttam Purush, without any doubt. Very important word used here is Sa Sarvavid Bhajati Mam. Sarvavid, he is to be considered as knowing everything, all the Vedas. So who is considered the knower of the Vedas? Not one who is lost in the Karma Kanda portion. Rig, Yajur, Sam, Atharva Ved mention mainly Karma Kanda portion. But a person who knows Krishna, he is Sarvavid. He is knower of everything. So one should know Krishna as Supreme Person. And Bhajati Mam, such a person will engage in Bhajati, in devotional service of Krishna. Thus, we are looking for a spiritual master, most knowledgeable person. So we should find a person who is Bhajati Mam, who is engaged in service of Krishna. Bhajati means bhajan, rendering service. So the perfect spiritual master, most knowledgeable person who is Sarvavid, what he'll be doing is Bhajati Mam, he'll be worshipping me, Krishna is telling. So the most knowledgeable person will worship Krishna Sarva Bhavena Bharata, in all respects. He'll completely worship. So thus one should only accept a worshipper of Krishna as the spiritual master. Iti guhyatamam shastram idam uktam maya nagha etad buddha buddhiman syat kritakrityascha bharata. This is the most confidential part of the Vedic scriptures, O sinless one, and it is disclosed now by me. Whoever understands this will become wise, and his endeavors will know perfection. So, Krishna gradually has built up this philosophy, and now we see Yoga of the Supreme Person. Now clearly the knowledge is being given, the Supreme Truth is a person, and Yoga, how to get connected to that person, is explained very clearly in this chapter. So one may ask why Krishna in the beginning of the Gita itself did not reveal this knowledge, because Arjuna, Krishna thought would take otherwise. When Krishna explained his eternality itself in the 4th chapter, Arjuna asked, how do I understand that you spoke this knowledge to sun god? We are comrades, we took birth together, we have played together. So thus gradually Krishna has given information. So thus Vedas also give gradual information till Vedanta and Bhagavatam, the explanation of Vedanta. That is the perfection of knowledge. But unless one reaches this point, the perfection of knowledge, knowledge of Supreme Person, one's knowledge remains incomplete. And very important qualification to understand this knowledge is, the word used here is Maya Anagha Iti Guhyatamam Shastram. This most Guhyatamam, topmost secret, that this material world is hallucinatory. The things which we think will give us happiness are the secondary roots which entangle us in this existence. Desire is the water. Real world, the reality, positive life, people without death, old age, disease, eternal, ever-increasing happiness. This is Guhyatam, very confidential. God is a person living on that planet which is self-effulgent. Now this is explained to Arjuna because he is addressed as Anagha. Agha means sin, Anagha means sinless. So to understand spiritual knowledge, one has to become free from sins. The sins cover our intelligence, Jnana, Vijnana, Nashanam. They destroy the knowledge, and we know that when we have sinful tendencies, right? People commit so many abominable crimes and then later they cry when they are arrested. Why? Because they became mad. Their knowledge was destroyed by the desires. So thus one has to become freed from the sins. So anything actually which is not for satisfaction of Krishna is sinful, because everything belongs to Krishna, nothing is our property. Still, there are 4 main pillars of sin. If we can break these pillars, then other small sinful activities will be stopped. And which are these 4 sins? It is mentioned in the Vedas, in Mahabharata, Bhagavatam, many places. Striya Suna Dyuti Pana Yatra Papas Chaturvidha. Illicit connection with the opposite sex, opposite gender. Animal killing or meat eating. Intoxication and gambling. So if we can break these 4 pillars of all sinful activities, then one can become Anagha and one can understand the spiritual concepts. So I request all of you, please understand this material world is a world of duality. That what we are considering happiness, one should be detestful of that. Because we understood, if you have heard this carefully, that is another side of distress. Happiness, distress are 2 sides of same coin. And unfortunately, what to speak of material happiness? Gross sinful activities are taken as the very source of happiness. So it is a great science. There are laws operating in this nature. Please take help, apply in your life. Please become sinless. Do not break these 4 principles. Now people are very much fond of sex. Every night and day they are enjoying sex. But has sex made them happy? When there were no contraceptives, child will come out if you have sex. So people will not enjoy much sex in life. But now so much of sex is there. The society is also permissive. But has unlimitedly doing more sex made a person unlimitedly more happy? No. But more miserable, more conditioned. So please, we have to rise above the materialistic association, materialistic conceptions of life. It is common sense and very logical. But just that we are so much haunted by our material desires. We either do not have time or we do not have sanity, because material desires, they drive us crazy. So I request, please try to avoid these 4 principles of sinful life: meat eating, intoxication, gambling, and illicit sex. And these things become very easy to be followed if one engages in positive aspect of devotional service. If we engage ourselves in the service of Krishna, then easily we can give up these 4 things because we want some enjoyment. So if we seriously engage in service of Krishna, we'll get positive enjoyment, higher taste, and strength to withstand the attractions for these sinful activities. And the devotional service begins with attentive, careful chanting of Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So please always keep on chanting, engage in service of Krishna, avoid sinful activities, and then we'll be able to have yoga with the Supreme Person. Thank you so much for hearing. We'll meet soon with the next chapter, Divine and Demoniac Natures. Till then, always keep on chanting. Hare Krishna.